I'm going to show you how terrorism actually interacts with our daily life. 15 years ago, I received a phone call from a friend. At the time, he was looking after the rights of political prisoners in Italian jails. He asked me if I wanted to interview the Red Brigades. Now, as many of you may remember, the Red Brigades was a terrorist Marxist organization which was very active in Italy from the 1960s until the mid-1980s. As part of their strategy, the Red Brigades never spoke with anybody, not even with their lawyers. They sat in silence through their trials, waving occasionally at family and friends. In 1993, they declared the end of the armed struggle. And they drew a list of people with whom they would talk and tell their story. And I was one of those people. When I asked my friend, well, why the Red Brigades want to talk to me, he said that the female members of the organization had actually supported my name. In particular, one person had put it forward. She was my childhood friend. She had joined the Red Brigades and became a leader of the organization. Naturally, I didn't know that until the day she was arrested. In fact, I read it in the newspaper. At the time of the phone call, I just had a baby. I successfully completed a management buyout of the company I was working with. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go back home and touring the high security prisons. But this is exactly what I did, because I wanted to know what had turned my best friend into a terrorist and why she had never tried to recruit me. So this is exactly what I did. Now, I found the answer very quickly. I actually had failed the psychological profiling of a terrorist. The Central Committee of the Red Brigades had judged me too single-minded and too opinionated to become a good terrorist. My friend, on the other hand, she was a good terrorist because she was very good at following orders. She also embraced violence because she believed that the only way to unblock what at the time was known as a bloc democracy, Italy, a country run by the same party for 35 years, was the armed struggle. At the same time, while I was interviewing the Red Brigades, I also discovered that their life was not ruled by politics or ideology, but actually was ruled by economics. They were constantly short of cash. They were constantly searching for cash. Now, contrary to what many people believe, terrorism is actually a very expensive business. I'll give you an idea. In the 1970s, the turnover of the Red Brigades on a yearly basis was $7 million. This is roughly between 100 and 150 millions today. Now, you know, if you live underground, it's really hard to produce this amount of money. But this also explains why, when I was interviewing the Red Brigades and then later on other armed organizations, including members of al-Zarqawi group in the Middle East, everybody was extremely reluctant to talk about ideology or politics because they had no idea. The political vision of a terrorist organization is decided by the leadership, which generally is never more than 5 to 7 people. All the others do day in and day out is search for money. Once, for example, I was interviewing this part-timer from the Red Brigades. He was a psychiatrist. He loved sailing. He was a really keen sailor. And he had this beautiful boat. And he told me that the best time of his life was when he was a member of the Red Brigades. And he was sailing every summer back and forth from Lebanon, where he would pick up Soviet weapons from the PLO and then carry them all the way to Sardinia, where other armed organizations from Europe would go and take their share of the arms. For that service, the red brigades were actually paid a fee, which went to fund the organization. So because I am a trained economist, and I think in economic terms, all of a sudden I thought, maybe there is something here. Maybe there is a link, a commercial link between one organization and another one. But it was only when I interviewed Mario Moretti, the head of the Red Brigades, the man who kidnapped and killed Aldo Moro, Italian former prime minister, that I finally realized that terrorism is actually a business. I was having lunch with him in a high security prison in Italy, and as we were eating, I had the distinct feeling that I was back in the city of London having lunch with a fellow banker or an economist. This guy thought in the same way I did. So I decided that I wanted to investigate the economics of terrorism. Naturally, nobody wanted to fund my research. In fact, I think many people thought that I was a bit crazy. You know, that woman that goes around to foundation asking for money, thinking about the economics of terrorism. So in the end, I took a decision that, in retrospect, did change my life. I sold my company and funded the research myself. And what I discovered is this parallel reality, another international economic system which runs parallel to our own, which has been created by armed organizations since the end of World War II. And what is even more shocking is that this system as follows, step by step, the evolution of our own system, of Western capitalism. And there are three main stages. The first one is the state sponsor of terrorism. The second one is the privatization of terrorism. And the third, of course, is the globalization of terrorism. So, state sponsor of terrorism, feature of the Cold War. This is when the two superpowers were fighting a war by proxy along the periphery of the sphere of influence, fully funding armed organization. A mix of legal and illegal activities is used. So the link between crime and terror is established very early on.